who you are. If you're a genuinely arrogant person, even with your mum, dad, your brother, so on, I'm sure that they're used to it. Be that person. That's you. You don't have to humble that. But if you're showing arrogance because of an ego that, look, I need to show that I'm something, that's fake, and that comes off a bit awkward. And you go back to, I don't know, anyone, a sportsman who's arrogant because they're genuinely arrogant, people somehow like them.
Sometimes I felt like I wasn't angry enough in the right situation, or I wasn't upset enough with people who, in my mind, I'm like, well, they've wronged you this amount, but you only seem to be this amount angry. What's going on? Where's the discrepancy? And I came to you on Wednesday and I said, Ash, I'm in a really good place right now because I've realized I don't need to be that person. I'm actually quite comfortable with who I am. Like, I don't need to bridge that gap. I thought I need to be my most authentic self. I need to go, instead of 20% angry where I feel like I should be 100%, I don't need to fill in that 80%. I don't need to match that. That's just who I am.
Right.
I only got 20% angry at that thing because that's how angry it made me. That's it. You have no idea how much you've just blown my mind. I'm going to dive straight in. Mine is coming across a bit louder, so maybe just keep it a bit closer to you.
Hello, how's that?
Oh, beautiful. Okay, you ready for, how every time I do like the dumb facts and then I say, Ash, can you do something, like, can you tell me something?
And I've got nothing.
No, you always come out with really like profound and deep and like meaningful thoughts. Here's mine for today.
Okay.
At what temperature does water change state from liquid to a gas?
100 degrees centigrade.
Right. When it boils, it changes state. So explain to me how things dry at room temperature. Like the dishes, or like you dry your hands on a towel. How does that work?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure I asked my physics teacher that at some point.
Did you?
Yeah, because I, like you, can sometimes think about the most random things in life.
Yeah. Been thinking about it a while.
Yeah. I think it's something to do with the kinetic energy. And I go there.
Yeah.
Which causes a certain energy which gets it to have... You know what? Someone's going to call me out if I give the wrong explanation, so I'm just going to avoid it and say, I'll get back to you.
Thanks, man. I was using my new air fryer, which I'm very happy with. Great purchase. And I was washing the thing, which is my least favorite part.
It's a very big air fryer, by the way.
It's a chunky boy.
Yeah, and you've gone for the... Yeah, it's nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I was washing it out, and then I left it out to dry. And I was like, it's pretty cold in here. I wonder if it will dry. And it was dry by the morning. Okay. Like this morning before I came to work. So I popped it back in its place. And I was like, how did that dry? It didn't boil. It didn't... Yeah. So these things plague my mind.
Yeah, but perhaps on the surface it did boil.
On the surface...
Like for a very small second on the top, it boiled.
So that's an interesting point. Particles are always like moving or whatever.
Yeah, kinetic energy.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Shaking.
We don't sound smart right now.
No, we really don't.
No.
We sound like, there's so many podcasts.
There's these... Yeah, go on.
But if anyone does know, give us a good explanation. Otherwise, you're just like us. You don't know.
Yeah. And you're dumb. No.
Yeah.
Excuse me whilst I die for a minute. What was I going to say? Yeah, there are these two Arab guys, and I think they do it intentionally. And when you showed me a clip of that podcast of these people breaking down, is it a bottle of water or something?
Yeah, he's like, look at a bottle of water this way and look at it that way. It's different.
I thought that they were joking. I thought it was a parody. And then there's these two Arab guys where somebody asks a very normal question like, what do you consider this? And he goes, if you have one apple and I give you another apple, you have two apples. But if I take those two and give you another two, you still have two. And they're just like, wow.
I love that.
Yeah. Do you want to do the intro?
Yeah, let's do it. Boom. Welcome to Director's Debrief, episode 5.
Yep, of the Feel Good series.
Of the Feel Good Inc. series. Yeah. Here we go. Here we go again. We're back and we are ready to talk about a lot of things, a lot of topics. Interesting, not interesting, you decide.
Yeah.
So today...
Talking about Stoicism, dude.
Stoicism.
Yeah.
a word that I didn't even know the definition of until recently.
Yeah.
Do
you know what it is now? Because a lot of people have called you a very good Stoic. That's what word around town is.
Yeah, which is why I had to quickly Google it, because you need to make sure, is it a good, is it a bad thing?
Yeah.
And I also asked my partner as well, who already knew it, and it kind of made me feel like I've failed English for some reason, because I didn't know the definition of this.
Yeah.
So when did Stoicism first come to you, or
come to me? When I was introduced to an author called Ryan Holiday, and I saw the book Ego is the Enemy and I've just realized a lot of the books that I read are recommendations that Ali Abdaal, the YouTuber, talks about on his channel. That's how I ended up reading The Unfair Advantage, where we recently did an episode with Hassan Kubba, the author of, and one of them was Ego is the Enemy. And he breaks down some really cool concepts, but a thing that underlines a lot of his work is Stoicism. He's a very, very big believer in Stoicism. He thinks it's a really good thing. It's something that's very trending in the media right now. And so naturally, I think he talked about this a lot before that. But now a lot of his stuff is kind of coming to light. His books on Stoicism, his quotes that he posts on his Instagram page. I didn't know, but there's an Instagram page called The Daily Stoic, which I followed for a while, because it's not these cheesy, like, if you can put your mind to it, you can do whatever. It's these like really meaningful quotes that he posts from people like Marcus Aurelius and other. I don't know if he's a philosopher, but this is why I start to look really dumb. So we're not going to go into the history of Stoicism, because I don't know much about it. But
okay. What's the definition of Stoicism?
I think it's...
what's your definition?
To me, it's influencing control over the things that you can control, and then leaving the rest. It's more, to me, Stoicism is more about influence rather than control. Like in life, you can't necessarily control everything. You can't go around and... they use a really, really good example. You can't make somebody impressed by a fancy car. You can buy the nice car that typically people are impressed by, but I can't make you look at my car and make you be impressed by it.
If you've made it this far and you're still not bored of us, thank you so much. Thanks for all your support. Please do make sure you like, subscribe, do what you can do to support this channel, and please comment if you can as well, because we'd love to hear the new topics or any new topics or ideas that you have. So please go ahead. Thanks. Understood.
So this is kind of coming into context now with everybody talking about wanting to have nice things, and the whole like trying to show off your status online on social media. And his point is very valid of like, you can have impressive things, but you can't make somebody be impressed by them. And so to me, it's a lot more about like in life, you can influence a lot of things. You just can't control them.
So do you think Stoics is the word, right?
Yep. That's a good,
to describe. Yep. So are Stoics made or are they born?
A Stoic is made, I think. I think it's a mindset you adopt over a long period of time. I think you can catch yourself not being a Stoic here and there.
Okay, and surely if you're made into a Stoic, you've gone through experiences that have humbled you?
I think so.
Put things in perspective?
Yeah, humbled you is an interesting one. Because I think you can go through those experiences and not become a Stoic. I think you can try to control something and like really stop it, and then it erupts in your face and you're like, hell, and then you go on to do the exact same thing the next time. It's learning from that of, did I do everything in my power to make this a better situation? Yes. Did it become a better situation? No, but okay, I did everything within my realm of control. So let's move on to the next thing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you a Stoic?
I'd like to think I am. Yeah. I like the idea of being a Stoic.
And give me an example of situations that you've had in the past where you've maybe not shown facets of Stoicism.
Not shown it?
Yeah. And perhaps examples, nothing specific, but of today where you feel like hopefully you're adapting that mindset a bit more.
I can't think of a specific one, but the things that spring to mind is in terms of not Stoicism, I don't know if you've ever felt like a bit down in the dumps, like you've tried to do a few things and nothing's working out for you. Like this might apply to your professional life, to your dating, to your friendships, relationships, whatever. You try and do a bunch of things and nothing is going your way. So you might plan a surprise for your partner Like, hey, I really want to do this, and then none of the dates align. But in the same day that you're trying to plan a wonderful surprise for your partner, the things that you're trying to plan, they don't align and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
At that same time, you text a friend to say, hey, how you been? And they don't reply that day.
Yeah.
And like a culmination of those things, by the end of the day, it's so draining.
Yeah.
Because you just sat there and you're like, man, nothing is going my way. Like, why is my life like this? And you kind of spiral, and it's a very negative trail of thoughts.
Yeah.
Because you think that you've just been born into this rotten bit of luck, and you can't, like, it's a real dark spiral. That's moments, when I think back, I do think that those moments have become a lot rarer for me. So I don't think I'm a fully blown Stoic where I can control every situation. But I do think now, when things aren't going my way, when I'm trying to plan, something, and then I reach out to some, the culmination of all of those things not working out, it is a lot easier for me now to look back and go, well, I did everything I could. So let's put this day to rest and try again tomorrow.
Okay, so looking at that spiral of events, because we've all been there. We've all had it, it's human. And we still all have those moments, whether it's weakness or just spiraling happens too quickly that we can't put a stop to them. But do you find you're able to separate those events? So, like you say, this event maybe not going your way, to a person not replying the way you wanted them to a certain work thing not working out the way you wanted it to. Yeah. Are you able to segment them a bit more?
I think that's the key part. I think that's the key part of Stoicism and being able to reflect in the right way, where these events aren't connected. I've heard on podcasts as well, I'm trying to think which one, where somebody says that, if you have an argument with your partner, you might trail on to think a series of other thoughts that were never there. Yeah. So your partner says to you something like, I don't like that shirt. And in your mind, the only opinion she's expressed is that shirt she doesn't like. And then you add these layers on top of it of, she doesn't love me anymore. She's distancing herself from me. All of these things, none of which are true. She doesn't like that shirt. So I think being able to separate all of those events and looking at things at a very individual basis is very, very important to Stoicism.
Yeah. That kind of segmentation of the different things. Yeah.
Can you think of a time where you weren't a Stoic, where you just...
completely, plenty of times. If anything, that's why I asked you the question of are Stoics made, because I'd like to think I show, as you say, attributes of being a Stoic, but I do, again, have those slip-ups or those mishaps where, you fall down the trap of blaming everything but yourself and all of that good, all that stuff that we talk about. It's not a particular example, but I very much know that in the past I've had those situations where things have spiraled, and certainly if I just zone in on work, could have 5 different projects going on at the same time and 5 different things going wrong in each project. Right? So a single thing going wrong in each project, so 5 different things. And in the past I've spiraled into nothing is going my way. This business is a mess. Everything's just not working out. And what soon happened, and I think this, to the very experienced entrepreneurs, they'll this is so obvious to them, but they history doesn't repeat itself. So the same 5 problems that I had last year or the year before, I'm not going to experience again. But it does rhyme. So yesterday, in fact, I was going through the same kind of thing where I had an error here. This didn't go right. This delivery went wrong. This pricing was all out of control. Various different things going on. Again, never had that situation, but I'd like to think I handled it a little bit clearer than I have in the past, because I made sure that I didn't spiral into everything's a mess. And I looked back and I went, actually, it solved itself. Somehow, some way, it solved itself. Some of it didn't, but then it didn't actually matter that much. And in the end, we got through and we had some good days. So I kind of used that a little. It's interesting because I literally used it yesterday to get me through some of those errors where I was like, it's all going to sort itself out. It's all going to be separated. And I was able to draw from the past. And I think that's where I do really think, in my opinion, this whole Stoicism is about made. And I'm hoping in the future, maybe I handle it even clearer than I did yesterday through all of those things.
What kind of control do you think you have over your life?
Ooh. I don't think we have control on our initial thoughts.
Okay.
So Into a certain extent, like, those thoughts will pop into your mind. I mean, only yesterday, we were in this room and we were discussing the fact that, if someone proposes a certain idea to you, why is my initial reaction sometimes, I don't believe in this, or this isn't right. I don't think we can control that. And we can be hard on ourselves about our initial thoughts, but it's just what our mind decides to think.
Yeah.
I think the thing we do have control over is to take a step back and say, is this actually my opinion, or do I need to maybe look at it from a few different angles? And I mean, I'm even taking that outside of work, where, I can go down a certain thought process about something I believe in. Maybe it's in politics, maybe it's in whatever it is, in finance and so on. And I have a certain belief, but before I let my initial thought spiral into my belief, I take a step back and maybe look at a few things, and that we have control over. And that is very, very important. Yeah.
I have some thoughts on that. Mm-hmm. I was once having a discussion with an old friend, and she told me that she made a statement, and I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I think I finally have a coherent answer.
Okay.
And it kind of relates to what you said.
Mm-hmm.
She told me that people are most honest when they're drunk.
Right.
And I took great issue with that, and haven't been able to figure out why until very recently. Do you believe that to be true? People are most honest when drunk or inebriated?
I wouldn't say they're most honest, but they're certainly honest when they're drunk.
Yeah. I think alcohol is known to reduce inhibitions, and it's known to remove any filters.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the meaning of like being the most honest. The way I've been thinking about this is alcohol removes your filters. But I don't think of Ash Shah as the man through his inner monologue. I consider you the person that you are with your filters.
Wow.
That's the kind of person. And that's why, and by the way, I think I had this conversation in like 2013,
That's
14.
so brilliant. Yeah.
It's been on my mind ever since. And I genuinely think it was last year that I managed to like make a coherent thought out of this, where, I guess it's where you get a sneak peek into how our brain operates. But to some extent, our brain kind of operates on autopilot.
Right.
We can't really control that. I think it's even a Ryan Holiday book of You Are Not Your Thoughts, or it might be somebody else. But I haven't read that book, but just as a concept, that brought me a great peace of mind, because we all have these thoughts.
Sure.
Where you're like, is that who I am? That's messed up. I don't like that.
So essentially what you're saying is the true honest Sam is the one that has his initial thoughts, puts them through his little filter, and then bam, comes out the other side with his coherent answer.
That's what I want to be evaluated on. I don't want to be evaluated on my inner monologue. That's a dark, messed up place.
Well, you have control over that, as you say. So why should you be blamed? It's like, for example, maybe at some point you have a very mild sexist thought. Something that just pops into your mind, goes through your filter, and you actually question yourself, and you say, hey, where did that come from? Why am I even thinking like that? That's what I think you should be judged on. And the fact that comes out. That's really interesting.
It's been on my mind for a while.
And it's interesting because say a hateful thought comes through your mind or someone's mind, and then they still choose through all of that filter to say it. That's what they should be judged on.
Yes, absolutely.
You had time to think of that. You had time to evaluate whether that was the correct thing to say, or where did that actually come from? Was that actually something from your heart, or is that just something you were parrot fashion repeating from someone else? Wow, I really like that.
I'm glad.
I'm
glad something coherent came out of that.
That was brilliant.
Good 10 years of thinking.
And I think that helps answer the discussion we were having downstairs yesterday, where it's like,
for reference, because obviously people watching this weren't there. I was talking about some advice I received from somebody that we work with, and I said they had the right idea, but it wasn't as tailored to the business as we would need it. And so I was adding my layer on top of that. And my brother kind of is the person who cuts through the BS and just says, when it comes to advice, do you accept it with humility? I was like, oh, wow, why are you asking me that? And it was because my initial knee-jerk reaction when receiving this advice was process it and come out with something different, which is fine. But he saw something else. And when I looked into my thought process as I received this advice, was immediately, they don't have the full context, or they're not seeing the full story. They don't know how that applies here. I do that in life. I do that in a lot of advice where, I think back now to certain ventures I've tried to set up, and people tell me, oh, that, have you considered this? And I brush it off. It's actually solid advice, or it's a really good way of thinking about it.
Yep.
But I say, you haven't thought about it as much as me. You haven't been in here, so your statement is, I discredit it, but it's wrong. Do you ever do that?
Oh, completely. we all do it.
Yeah.
Anyone who says they don't is lying to themselves. That is definitely my opinion. I think it comes back to what you just said a couple of minutes ago. And I'm sorry, that was a really good thought that you said. But at the end of the day, okay, you've learned from your previous things, where someone's maybe given some advice and you've not taken it on board, maybe, or you've instantly deflected it, said no, that doesn't work, or discredited it. But now, say the person we work with or whoever comes up with an idea, even if your initial thought deflects it or says or brushes it off, you have a chance to still think about it and come back to them, even if it's in a matter of seconds, and say, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it from that angle. And I think that's what you should be, again, judging yourself on.
Right, okay,
because
that helps.
If I say we're having a conversation and I come up with an idea, okay, I've come up with some stupid ideas, you can shoot them down straight away. But if there's a half decent idea that I've genuinely thought about, you can either shoot it down straight away and say, Ash, you don't understand this concept, or that doesn't make sense, or you can give it your extra 5 seconds, evaluate it. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily agree with me.
Yeah.
But just give it that extra bit of thought. Try and see it from my angle. Why is he even talking this way? Oh, he's not necessarily involved in that project, but he's maybe seen something in the past or evaluated, and then judge. And I think that's what you should judge yourself on.
Right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's helpful. And that's what I think maybe my brother meant by accepting the advice with humility, which kind of led me to a thought. Harvey and I were rebuilding this table because we've got some new legs for it. Not this one, the conference table over there. And we were talking about humility as well, which is quite interesting. There's a weird, there's always a good balance between sort of humility and confidence. And if you get it wrong, you might be perceived as arrogant or like too humble. We all know somebody who's too arrogant or too humble. How do you draw that line?
Okay, when in this context that we were just talking about?
No, just in life, in conversation. How do you come across as like a confident person who is confident of their thoughts and their opinions and stuff?
It's a really hard line.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm having personal conversations, maybe we're talking about the business and so on, you dance a difficult line between saying something that may sound arrogant and overcompensating by trying to be too humble, and it just sounds like you've mushed over and you're just being a wishy-washy mush. Like that's my opinion. When it comes out, that's some real statement there, real phrase. How do I balance it?
Or a better question, because I think we live in a world where I think people are too scared of coming across as arrogant, and so we overcompensate and we become too humble.
Yeah,
which I think has consequences too, right?
Mm-hmm. It does indeed. Sometimes I do think that those that come across as too humble don't express their real thoughts and therefore lack opinion.
They don't lack the opinion.
No, hide the opinion, suppress the opinion.
Yeah,
which leads to less conversation, less authenticity. And I think that's really where you want to be. I don't think you need to necessarily balance arrogance with humbleness. You need to look at yourself with the people you hang around with daily, because they're the people where you don't dance that line. Do you dance the line between, I hope I don't come across too arrogant to Ash, or too humble? You don't really care because we spend all the time. We're in the office. I think that's the real Sam, and that's who you should be. Whether on the spectrum of people in the world that comes across slightly arrogant than normal, maybe, just because you give off a bit more opinion than maybe someone else.
Yeah,
that's you. Like, why should you try and put yourself down to being a bit more humble? That's not who you are, and that then again leads to a less interesting Sam, is my opinion.
Yeah, and I think like later down the line, you will personally feel the consequences of that. Like, we joke in the beginning of these episodes where I tell you about something that's been plaguing my mind. And that's kind of a joke, but obviously these things, like, well, what did we talk about today? How things dry. These are dumb, mundane things that stick in my mind. I have some very real and some very, like, heavy, not heavy, but like, yeah, let's call it heavy things that reside in my mind because I didn't express my opinion at the right time because I thought it was the right thing to do. I'll never forget this. One time I was hanging out with a group that wasn't my group of friends.
Yeah.
It was somebody I was with and it was their group of friends. And this person was talking about their opinions of immigration and how there is a bit of I think it was around the time where it was some sort of conflict in the Middle East and a lot of Middle Eastern immigrants or refugees were coming over to the UK or Spain.
Yeah.
Because this person was Spanish. And what she said was there is such a large variety of, there's such a difference in cultures. And that's absolutely fine. It's a very valid opinion. But then she started highlighting some of the negative aspects or stereotypes. Yeah. I don't believe these to be true of Middle Eastern culture. I'm fairly certain I know more Middle Eastern people than her.
Yeah.
And some of these attributes that she was highlighting, I don't know any of those in my sort of social circle or in my, like, of the...
You don't agree with it.
Yeah. And I didn't say anything. And my thought process in the moment was, it's not my group of friends. Yeah. So I don't want to leave a negative impression on this individual here who's introduced me to these people. I don't want them to think, associated with me who brought the group down.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cause conflict in that moment. I was avoiding conflict. Okay. I hate it when people say I avoid conflict, but occasionally that is who I am.
Right.
But I still think about that to this day. I didn't highlight it to them. I just stayed quiet. And later, the person this was their group of friends said to me, like, why didn't you say anything? I don't agree with what she said. And like that felt like it was somewhat personal, that what they were saying wasn't valid. Why didn't you say anything? Okay. And I'll forever hear her voice saying that. Why didn't you say anything?
So it's interesting. Okay, so if we were to go to the humble or opinionated in this conversation, you'd obviously taken the very humble route or kind of suppressed route on your opinion. Yeah. And I think what you may have gathered from your friend is that you should have gone the other way and voiced your opinion. Yeah. Now, let's take this scenario that you and I are having this conversation off mic, so it's a little bit less like we're speaking to everyone else. Yeah. And I voice similar opinions that this person did about Middle Easterns and so on, and we have that. Here's my opinion of what I think you would react with. Okay. Yeah,
this would be good. Yeah.
Right. Firstly, I don't think you would suppress your opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't think you would approach it with unless I was really being anywhere near hateful or anything like that. I don't think you'd approach it in a matter of, I need to voice my opinion because otherwise I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
I think you would approach it in a way of conversation to get your point across. And that's like, it's not, look, you're talking about people that I know and I don't agree with you and I need to show to everyone else that I have an opinion.
Right.
I don't think you'd approach it in that way. You'd approach it in a way of trying to educate me on, look, Ash, like, just trust me with this because I have X, Y, Z and I don't agree with those necessarily being the case. Perhaps there are others out there, but as a generic whole, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
You'd approach it in that, that's my opinion.
Yeah. I'm very happy that you said that.
Would that be how you
Because that's how I feel in reflection, right? If I was to do a do-over or if we were having this conversation, that's how I feel like I would approach it. But I have this bias of I've had time to think about it.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like I would approach it that way. But interesting that you not knowing that still kind of came out with the same response.
Yeah, and the reason for this is I think in that moment you were thinking too much about the opinions of others on you, not the topic.
Yeah.
And that led you, in this case, to suppressing yourself. But then the opposite of that would be, I'm going to show my opinion out of ego to make sure everyone knows I have an opinion.
Right, yeah.
Not the actual topic of conversation.
Yeah.
You weren't defending anyone. You were doing it for you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you and I were having a conversation off topic, only because I'd like to think you're comfortable because there's no need to have ego.
Guard is down. We can...
Yeah. Exactly. There's no ego around. And that's the case with your family, with your close friends, it just tends to be the case because you left that a long time ago. Yeah. You left the ego behind. You left the humbleness behind. It's just you.
Yeah.
And I like to think in that moment you're focusing on the actual topic and you're not like, look at me, I have an opinion, and you're not trying to stop offending or stop conflict.
Yeah, it's a really cool take, because now that I'm reflecting on this, what you just said makes a lot of sense. In that moment, and again, this might be hindsight's 2020, but what I was thinking was all of these attributes that you're saying about Middle Eastern people are attributes that I typically try to disassociate from. Right. And these are things when I was younger, I was ashamed of, because I thought that's what I was naturally going to grow into. And I needed to make an active and conscious effort not to be that person. I'll give you one example just to set the tone, but there was like 4 or 5 different points. Was aggression, right? She perceived Middle Eastern people to be quite aggressive people. Right. And I've always tried to become this, and it's funny, we're talking about, Stoicism and stuff. I've always tried to remain a very sort of tranquil, very calm, have a very calming presence, because I'm very nervous that people will see me and associate me to that name tag of being Middle Eastern, and boom, that's who you are. You're one of those people. Yeah. It's the whole like trying to be one of the good ones, right? If we're talking about comically what racial profiles are.
Yeah.
I was always trying to do that. And I think in that moment, I was so nervous of being perceived as everything she was describing that I was just focusing on me. It wasn't on the topic. It was me and the group's perception of me. Yeah. So it's funny that without knowing that, you said exactly the same thing. I find that very interesting. Yeah. I'm very relieved that over time that I've managed to step away from that, actually be who I am as a person, and that's what's still coming across. I'm very grateful that you said that, actually. And
that was a genuine thing, and I do think you would approach it in that way, which goes back to our conversation of humbling or arrogant, or is that was it? The ego side.
Ram needs to make sure he edits this right, because he needs to put this just before Ash reveals a huge truth bomb and changes my whole mind on so many different things. But if you've reached this point, please make sure to like and subscribe.
How do you come across it, or how do you find the balance? And it's like, you don't have to be in between.
Yeah.
Just be who you are. If you're a genuinely arrogant person, even with your mum, dad, your brother, so on, I'm sure that they're used to it. Be that person. That's you.
Yeah,
You don't have to humble that. But if you're showing arrogance because of an ego that, look, I need to show that I'm something, that's fake, and that comes off a bit awkward. And you go back to, I don't know, anyone, a sportsman who's arrogant because they're genuinely arrogant. Yeah. People somehow like them.
Yeah.
It's weird.
That's very weird.
It's weird. Whereas those that show arrogance because of some insecurity or because, they want that to be their character, people read through that and it comes across as cheap.
Yeah.
And people don't like that person.
You have no idea how much you've just blown my mind, because in recent times, we had a conversation not too long ago where I said, I'm not too comfortable with where my headspace is at the moment. And a big part of that was sometimes I felt like I wasn't angry enough in the right situation, or I wasn't upset enough with people who, in my mind, I'm like, well, they've wronged you this amount, but you only seem to be this amount angry. What's going on? Where's the discrepancy? And I came to you on Wednesday and I said, Ash, I'm in a really good place right now, because I've realized I don't need to be that person. I'm actually quite comfortable with who I am. Like, I don't need to bridge that gap. I thought I need to be my most authentic self. Yeah. I need to go, instead of 20% angry where I feel like I should be 100%, I don't need to fill in that 80%. I don't need to match that. That's just who I am.
Right.
I only got 20% angry at that thing because that's how angry it made me. That's it. Yes, okay, I might think that people should see me at 100% angry because this is 100% angrifying of a thing. Yeah. But actually, no, I'm not that. I'm just that 20%. And so that gap, I'm perfectly comfortable with. You ever, have you ever been in a position where you thought about how you reacted and you feel like you underplayed your reaction? Just as a closing thought.
Yes.
Yeah, like you walk away from something, and I don't mean to crap on relationships. To me, I feel like most situations are when you're like, I didn't do this, I didn't make a big enough deal out of this in front of my partner.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have in the past. It's funny. So my mum actually told me the other day. She said it in front of my partner. Yeah. She said, Ash has his opinions, and he'll make sure you know his opinions. and he'll obviously mum says what a mum says. Yeah. She goes, and even after the argument's done, he'll make sure you know his opinion. And part of me like started to think about that, saying, "Do I? Am I overdoing it?" And then I looked back and I said, "Yeah, that is me." Yeah. Like, I like obviously a mum does what a mum does and exaggerates a little bit, of course, just because that's what they have to do. But on the same token, yeah, like there must be something in me, and I like to think in recent times I've become I'm trying to, it's a work in progress, trying to get closer to actually what I feel and just being my authentic self. Yeah. And I realized that what she said was right. And in the past, she's never said something like that. And perhaps that was because I was always suppressing my voice a little bit more. Right, yeah. On that side. So yeah, just to answer your question there,
that's what I think I've thought of. Like, I've looked at what you just described as what should be the ideal scenario. That's utopia. You have an opinion and you make sure people hear your opinion. And I always thought, like, if I reserved myself in that moment, I didn't act like Ash did, and I didn't do the right thing. I think something that maybe too long. It took me 27 whole years to figure this out. Yeah. You're now a year older.
Yeah. But on the same token, it's a continuous work because it's a continuous thing, because perhaps I get a little bit overexcited and voice my opinion, but then that goes beyond where I naturally would be. Yeah. Just because maybe there's some new people in the room and I want them to know that I've got an opinion. When in fact that's when ego kicks in. Right. And yeah, maybe I've gone a bit too far because we're talking about something so minute, and it's always going to be a balancing game. And I think there is no such thing as you will be in utopia and you'll be happy forever. Yeah, you got to work on it. But yeah, just try to get to you know who you are. You know who you are when you're with your family, your loved ones, your friends, everyone.
It's a good reference point. I like that you said that. You seem to have gained a lot of wisdom since turning 28.
Yeah, just in the last few days. Yeah, you soon will know.
How's it feel being 28?
Feels fine. Yeah. It feels better than 27. I have to say that, but it does, in the sense like you realize your 30's only around the corner, but you still have time.
You still have time.
So you start enjoying.
Is that why everything you've said today you've ended with? But I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Try and give it.
Yeah. I'm just getting started. Yeah. Life has just begun. Yeah. But yeah, that's really it. And funny enough, one of my partner's nephews was born on the same day as me. Lovely. So on Friday, Ruben is his name.
Born as in born this year?
Born this year.
Oh, amazing.
On my birthday, yeah. I was slightly angry that he's taking over all the attention, and then I was really happy because he was quite cute. So it will do. But yeah, it just made me think. And then I was like, wow, this kid's 28 years younger than me.
Yeah, that's wild.
Wow.
A kid's born in 2023, man. Yeah. Like, in a couple of years, I don't know when kids start talking. That's how little I know. But like, when do kids start talking? Like,
I don't know.
In my mind, I made
1, 2.
Right, I thought like 5 or 6.
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
What kind of kids?
I don't know.
You go to school.
How many babies do you think I'm hanging out with?
Sorry.
I don't know.
5 or 6 is like year 1, I think.
Yeah, okay. So, all right, but let's say when they turn like 5 or 6 and they've been speaking for 3 years, as I've just learned, when they turn that age, they're going to be able to say, I was born in 2023. Yeah. And that's when you and I just immediately die of old age.
Like that kid has missed the whole pandemic.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that would be in the history books. Like, the pandemic to them is like, I don't even know. I don't even care. Yeah. I ain't got COVID. I haven't got it.
Yeah. I wasn't there.
Yeah. But so I'm just thinking, I'm like, wow, that's pretty much 30 years. That kid's going to live the world for that kid is going to be so different. Yeah. Exciting, strange, but yeah, it's just, that was some deep thoughts.
Yeah. You just made me think, like, we'll tease at this and we'll discuss this in the next episode. But do you think the rapid rate at which the world is changing is plateauing? Just lock it in there for next episode, because we really have to go to our meeting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because we grew up during a time where, phones, apps, technology, Instagram, social media rewired our entire brain, and that kid's being born into that world. I'm very scared at what comes next, but I'm hoping things are plateauing because I can't deal with all this change, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just do a teaser. I think it's only just begun. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up there because we've got 8 minutes to the meeting. So, yeah, do you want to...
Yeah, if you enjoyed watching episode 5 of the Feel Good Inc., please don't forget to subscribe, like, do what you got to do. Make sure you are where you are, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Sorry, I think I was trying to do the end there.